What's up, guys? Today we're going to be talking about what I think is becoming one of the best deals of this year so far. Is the Samsung Galaxy S21 Ultra. I think about 5 months ago I made a price update video and it was around 650 bucks on Amazon, and this phone has come down in price again for every new refurbished one, around $436. So when I bought this, it was again around that $600 price point, and now it's come down to, you know, almost the $400 price point, and it's just a ridiculously good deal for what you are getting. And it actually has, I actually like some of the stuff about this phone over the S22 Ultra as well too, which we will kind of get into. I do have a full comparison between those two phones if you guys want to see it. But man, this phone for this type of price is absolutely crazy. So let's go ahead and get into what makes this phone so awesome. Alright, so one of the first things is the design on this phone. So this phone is just very, very unique looking still. It still has this very futuristic kind of look, and a lot of people were mad that Samsung actually got rid of the camera design with the S22 Ultra, as you guys can see. Now, I personally like both of these designs, but let me know down below which design do you guys like the most here. But as you can see, it has that little camera bump on it, or a little cutout for it, and I think it still looks pretty cool, very futuristic looking. And yeah, it still feels really awesome too. One of the things about this phone is that, yeah, it does have like a more weight at the top here, which you kind of notice, but you get used to pretty quickly. But other than that, it is a really nice design. It's got the matte finish, it's IP68 dust and water resistant, and also this is something that's very important. It feels way better in the palm than the S22 Ultra by a mile. So you guys can see the S22 Ultra is much more it's much more sharper on the edges. That's, you know, traditionally the Note phones sort of have that edges, but as you can see, usually with the S series phones, they have those sort of curved, that it just feels way better in the hand, which is something that I really appreciate with this phone. I absolutely love the design on here. Alright, so one of the most awesome things about this phone is still that it has a top tier display. So it still has an excellent display in it. I think it does have some advantages, especially if you are a person that doesn't like the super curved display that the S22 Ultra has. This one, it curves, but it doesn't curve as dramatic, right? As you guys can see, it's not as dramatically curved as the S22 Ultra, which I think is a good blend. It's really hard to get really any accidental touches on this phone. And also, some people like the more curved design on the screen as opposed to the more square design as well too, which is really nice. So it really comes down to personal preference, but the screen on here is still beautiful. It's still a top tier display for $400. It's a 6.8-inch display. It's a full 1440p dynamic AMOLED display. It's 120 hertz on here as well too. It gets up to 1500 nits peak brightness on here as well too, and it's 515 for the PPI. So icons and everything look extremely sharp on this phone here. It's just a beautiful panel to look at, and like I said, depending on who you are, you might like this screen over the S22 Ultra. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is the actual specs. So this phone really has no competition in the $400 price range if you go ahead and get this phone used refurbished, because it's got the Snapdragon 888 processor on here, 128 gigs of internal storage or 256 gigs, and then 12 gigs of RAM. It is very impressive. Like I said, it's better than the Galaxy A53, it's better than the Galaxy A73, it's better than those mid-range phones that you can get from Samsung, or really any mid-range phone. Any phone in the $400, $500 price point, it's going to be better than. I would even argue probably some of the $600 phones as well too, because you do have some mid-rangers that are kind of up there. So the Snapdragon 888 processor is extremely fast. I have a gaming test on this phone. It plays pretty much anything you want, and it does a great job at it. Yes, this phone can get a little bit warm, but I've never had this phone burn to the touch or anything like that. But yeah, these phones could definitely get a little bit warm. That's the only thing about these AAA processors. But besides that, performance-wise, it is just an incredible experience. Whether you're playing PUBG, Fortnite, whatever you throw at this phone, Genshin, it is going to do a phenomenal job at gaming performance. And like I said, if you're a gamer, it just beats anything you would buy for 400 bucks. Hands down. It's not even, it has no competition, basically. Also, I want to show you guys the graphic performance here, just so you guys can know. For a game like Call of Duty, we're able to play very high max settings, basically no problem when it comes to performance on here. And we'll show you guys the Geekbench scores as well too, so you can go ahead and just do a little comparison. Compare the Geekbench scores so you can see how much power you're getting here. And that's not the right one. Samsung Geekbench scores are always, you have to kind of run them twice, but you can see these are the Geekbench scores. You can see how they compare. I wish they would show us other phones besides Samsung devices, but you know, it's going to give you great performance. So whether you're bouncing in and out of applications, whether you're multitasking, this phone is just going to blow through. It's just going to be super snappy, super speedy, no matter what you're doing on your phone. This is also where the S21 Ultra shines. For $400, you won't get any phone out. There's no phone out there that's going to give you a 108 megapixel camera. And remember, it's just not the specs. The actual quality of the photos here are still flagship quality photos. They still look basically like the S22 Ultra. They still compete with the latest iPhones. 108 megapixel lens, 10 megapixel periscope telephoto lens does 10x, and then you'll have another 10 megapixel telephoto lens that does 3x. 12 megapixel ultra wide. It has a macro mode. It shoots in 8K. And you also have a 40 megapixel selfie cam that also shoots in 4K 60. It's still a phenomenal camera phone. Not only does it take still some of the best zoom shots you can get on any phone, but you can also do 100 times zoom as well too, which is absolutely nuts on this device here. So as you guys can see, image quality is still top-notch, beautiful shots, gonna give you really good low light performance, excellent daytime performance. Samsung just has so much great software with One UI to be able to edit the photos and all sorts of little tricks as far as the One UI goes with the images. So it's just a beautiful camera experience, and I think the cameras are just really versatile. And yeah, I absolutely love the cameras on here. It's still a top-notch you know, camera phone. Also, the video quality is still pretty good in my opinion as well too. I think it's really competitive, and again, with some of the best flagships out right now still to this day. So it's just a phenomenal phone when it comes to the camera quality, especially at this price point. Now, here's some things that people don't really mention about this phone because, you know, it sort of got shadowed by the newer phones. This phone is actually still getting the same treatment that the S22 Ultra is getting as far as the software experience. So this phone will get a very long lifespan in terms of software experience. I believe Samsung bumped it up to like 5 years of major OS updates, and then you get like another 5 years of security patches, something like that. But just know, if you buy this phone, you won't have to update for a very long time because it's going to have a very long lifespan. Also, what they also don't really mention with this phone is that this phone does have S Pen support as well too. Now, it's not going to be as good, or I mean not as good, but as convenient as having the S Pen, you know, built in like on a traditional Note. But you can buy the case and have that S Pen on here. Definitely, you can see the S Pen mode is on this device here. And this phone does have the Samsung desktop support. It's got also secured folders, reverse wireless power sharing. It still has everything that the newer phones have. It doesn't have anything that the newer Galaxy phones don't have. Also, I want to go ahead and touch on the speakers because the speaker quality is really good on this device here. It's got stereo speakers. Very good bass quality, excellent mids and highs, really loud sound, so you know, zero complaints in terms of the speaker quality with this phone here. Now, this phone does have the under the display fingerprint sensor, which works really well, and you also can take advantage of face unlock on this device as well too, which is really awesome. So you do have those two methods, and the battery life has gotten a little bit better since this phone has gotten updates. The battery life was never bad. But this phone does have a 5,000 milliamp battery. It's got 25 watt charging, and then you have wireless and reverse wireless charging. This phone can easily squeeze 6 hours of screen on time pretty easy. The only issue with this phone is that if you're kind of doing demanding stuff, or not so much demanding stuff, but my issue with this phone is the standby time. I would find that if I just leave this phone, it would kind of drain over the days. It doesn't have as good standby time as some other devices, some other flagship phones, but overall, I mean, it's pretty amazing phone for if you get it for 400, whatever dollars. Anything anywhere in the $400 price range is pretty impressive to get this phone, because you don't really have to update this phone if you get it. It has everything really that the newer phones have, and I think it does some things that are better as far as maybe a better design. I do like the curvier design more. I do like the sort of subtle curve on the screen. Also the design, like I said, in general, it's just really cool looking as well too. And it's getting the same software treatment. It still has a very strong chipset that will be powerful for many, many years. So it's really just, it's a no-brainer to pull the trigger on this phone. If you're thinking about getting a new phone, I would skip any mid-range phone and just come straight to this phone. So what do you guys think? Is this one of the best deals that you can pick up today in 2022? The price is only going to get better, so be sure to let me know, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.